Hello, it's Coach Steven, and today we're coming at you with some strategizing and then point by point breakdown and analysis. And I guarantee you by the end of this video, it's a little longer, but you will have a higher tennis IQ. Of course, one thing is to hit the ball well and have the strokes, but we would love that to translate to winning. One thing that's quite obvious is I am no Roger Federer, so I don't have this infinite skill cap where I can just choose whatever shot I want. In fact, I have to be smart about how I optimize my game. And my opponent today, of course, very tricky player that prevents very similar challenges whether you play at a level much higher than me or lower than me. We can both learn from the things I do well and not well here to navigate around certain styles of play. So we are going to start doing a little dissection of what we know from a preliminary standpoint about the opponent. Interestingly enough, my opponent is 6'7", which is going to dictate where his strike zone is, of course. The serve is going to be, depending on how good his serve is, of course, the serve is going to come at a different angle. Now, what I was aware with my opponent, he has very short swings, which is good and bad. And you see great players with short swings, you see great players who have big windups. But my particular opponent, you have to, if you've watched my series on poke, dive, and brawl, sort of categorize and try to figure out what are they going to try to accomplish when they're playing. So when we talk about a poke style, you can even equate that to a counterpuncher. Okay, my opponent does a great job giving up space. His positioning is not going to be right up on the baseline trying to push me back, but many times wait for me to overhit and then go to the corner. Or control the point with direction and wait till I'm a little bit off balance, redirect one, and then come in. Use his slice to pull me into the court and then rip one. Okay, very much how you see, even Djokovic play, where he's not trying to hit every ball 100%. He's hitting a lot of balls at normal rally balls, but he has a clear intent that he's in mind of what he's trying to do. All right, so as I'm going about this match, I already know going in. Okay, and this is how you should probably have done the work off court, so you don't get into a match. And again, there are only so many different styles of opponent, but you do not want to be the player who freezes up and has no idea where to begin. All right, so let's talk about keys to the game. First of all, I have to figure out the return. And what does that mean? Look, if he's serving well, and depending on how good his serve is, I will lose points on a serve 100%. But when I say figure out the serve is where can I stand? I need to adjust my position as the match goes on. I need to be able to hopefully read his toss a little bit as the match goes on, so I don't get killed all game. So I at least have a chance. And hopefully, and what you'll realize is when the balls wear out and it slows down a little bit as the match goes on, hopefully it gives me a chance to get in some of the points and establish what I'm trying to do with my game. Now, when it comes to playing into a poke style, I know that I'll need to what's called dive. If he wants to counterpunch, okay, and guys, remember, do not try to hit winners on a player who wants you to go for winners. A counterpuncher is waiting for you to go for a winner, okay, in order to hurt you. So do not fall into that trap. You need to set up your point with specific shots, okay, using more medium pace, and then use your finishing shots, which is basically attacking with your feet, your drop shot, your volley, okay, and take what the defense gives you. So let's get into some of the points and look at the nitty-gritty here. So even first point of the match, I'm already hunting my forehand. And based on where he's striking the ball from cross court, I didn't even quite fully recover to the quote center. So I'm edging over to this forehand because whenever you're hitting an inside out forehand, you're in what I call the diver's position. And what I mean by diver's position is because you're hitting a forehand from off the court, you're forcing your opponent to make a decision of, do I keep playing soft defense and keep taking inside out forehands all day, or do I try to play aggressive defense and rip the ball to the open court? Obviously, I'm happy with this last forehand because it felt good off the strings. Now, if a not so good defender, you can hang back just a little bit, see what unfolds, and then move in. Against a good defender, you have to move in right after the moment it feels good on your strings. You don't have time to watch and wait. You've just got to go and take a calculated risk that he might not hit a perfect defensive ball. Now, I understand this backhand half volley is not the easiest shot in the world, so if you're not comfortable with this, just hit your split step a little bit inside the baseline, hit one more backhand approach, and then come in to look for the 2-ball combo. But if you can cut to the chase, and just go for it. Here my opponent puts the return right in the corner. And so I really, being off the court, should do one of two things. Either number one, try to rip a winner, or because I have the angle. Or number two, play the ball a little higher and softer so I have time to recover. The genius in me decides to play a neutral rally ball low. I just took my recovery time away, and he does a great job snowballing the point. There I'm happy with doing most things right on dive. I didn't overhit, I kept my balance, I attacked with my feet, just so happened to smoke the volley. This happens on dive quite often, but I understand sometimes you do need to test your opponent's defense. Here, my opponent, the serve was not good enough, and it left him too much on balance. So I go for the one-shot kill with the drop shot, and he makes me pay in return. What I needed was a 2-ball combo to set up the finish. Some rallies here, and one good idea if you're not mentally ready to attack is to use the middle a little more so you don't get counterattacked with the angle that you're giving to your opponent. Here you'll see a few times he gets a little close to the baseline. Obviously, first time you play in a set, he just wasn't aware that my offensive slice is one of my best shots. I'm able to punch it deep, but as the match goes on, I know that he'll adjust to it. So this 1-2 punch with the drop shot was a little bit better. One of the things, he was still recovering laterally, even though he's on balance. It moves really well for a taller player. At least he had to change direction a little bit, which allowed me to kind of eke this one out. So about the serve. And funny enough, the conditions were very slow this morning, so while he could beat me with power, he was just hitting his spots too, so it makes it very, very tough. The only thing is, again, hope and pray he's not painting the lines all match, and hopefully I can get a little bit of a read, but Again, always very tough. One of the things you'll see me do in the number of times, look, my serve is not that big in general, but you can serve to A, win the point outright, or B, just serve for position in order to try to snowball the point on the next shot, because you're able to keep your balance. In this last forehand, I do a good job holding the shot, which is one of the 5 or 6 important dive skills. Now, this is a very important lesson here on this next point. As you're playing into a counterpuncher, someone who has a potential to counterpunch very well, you do not want to set up the point with power. If I had ripped the ball low and hard, and he gets there, he's going to use my pace. I'm going to be off balance from trying to overhit, and he is going to drill the ball at my feet or to the open court. By hitting the ball loopy, I'm forcing my opponent to generate his own pace, and I'm looking to counterpunch the counterpuncher, essentially. While I was very happy with that setup ball, he makes a right read and hits a great forehand defensive slice, landing it deep with heavy spin. Now, if I had read his mind, sure, I can come in and volley that, but you're never going to, against a very good defender, be able to get those reads. It's just a great defense. The only good news here is I'm still in the diver's position, even though I'm forced to make another really good play here. Thankfully, I notice his position is further behind the baseline. So knowing that if I rip the ball hard and deep, he's going to counterpunch me big time and I'm done. So I opt for the angle, pulling him off the court one more time. Now, unless he hits a winner, I get to run and open up the court angle with the cross-court forehand, which is a much better play than trying to pull the trigger one shot early. Again, you have to think in 2-ball combos all the time against good defense. So my opponent showing some excellent dive as well with the great combo, serve and volley there. I continue to hunt my forehand and try to set that similar type of play up. But my opponent, again, being that type of very good chess player, he did not give me the forehand slice when I was creeping into the court, but rather hits a nice topspin deep. I get caught moving at a bad angle, and I should have tried to get this point back to neutral, but because I had already made the decision early in my mind to try to stay on offense, that was the incorrect read, and I essentially get punished. Oh, no. Well, I'm quite satisfied with the sequence of shots, setting up the point, 3-ball combo, including the serve. I do smoke this volley. Now, if you're on the ATP Tour, this volley needs to go down, but for someone like me, if you're not playing Novak Djokovic, it's okay to hit one more volley in the court first as a neutral volley and then close on the second one. I didn't get my grip change right here, perhaps. I was just mentally not ready. I can go deep up the middle and then look to finish on the volley after. Sometimes trying to do too much for someone at like my level is still a common problem. Already, as the set wears on, he's no longer surprised by the offensive slice, and he's reading it off my strings much better. I get pushed into the corner with a good slice from my opponent, so I'm already scrambling. Now he does something very interesting and sneaky, which is fake like he's going in, so I'm forced to almost rip the ball deep as a counterplay, but then he recovers back with a back split, and of course I make the error long because this isn't the easiest shot for me with my current strokes. Again, more excellent dive from my opponent. If he notices I'm not going to try to put pressure on him and give him counter-punching opportunities, he can set up his inside-out forehand. On this point, again, my opponent did a great job setting up and going dive himself because he noticed me sitting back and playing a little more defensive, so excellent adjustment. I just got lucky because he had me on a string that he went short hair instead of noticing how close I was to the baseline. And thereby going short, I can sort of turn some defense into offense. I throw in this little change-up serve from time to time, especially against an opponent who's standing further back, because my power isn't going to do anything. And serving softly, matter of fact, does not mean serving poorly. So if I can't get him out of position serving hard, well, I need to force him to generate his own pace, hit one soft, and then go hard the other way to try to finish the point. So pretty good neutral shots from both sides up to this point. I hit this short ball, not necessarily when I was planning to come in on, and if you see your opponent balanced, do not continue to move forward. And in general, look, when you're playing dive into poke, any really solid defender is going to test your patience, but you have to keep probing and probing, because in tennis there's no 3 strikes and you're out. Assuming one has a stamina, you can just keep the rally going until you find one you really like to attack. A common theme throughout this whole video is, look at me, where am I standing? Definitely not in the middle of the court. You may ask why I didn't recover. Well, I know my opponent is extremely consistent, so I need to force close combat situations where either he hits a winner or I hit a winner, but I just can't play the long game on a number of these points because, yes, he's very consistent. This right here is a tough ball to put away, which is why I leave so much space. But generally, and not related to this point, as the match wears on, and this is later and deeper into the first set, you need to take note of where my opponent can and can't hurt me and give him or her the options where they haven't proven it yet. So as this match wears on, one of the benefits to short strokes in general, as you can tell, both myself and my opponent to a degree, but it is very hard to read some of his shots, even though he's not hitting every ball hard. The release time is quick, so you see me in some cases just a step late. Here at the end of the set, maybe trying to raise my energy level just a little bit. And that's generally what happens as players make adjustments. If your opponent starts to dive you, meaning set up their finishes, come in net, if you start playing too passive, you'll have to brawl a little bit into the dive, because brawl is good against dive. Use more energy, stay low, hit the ball a little harder with more topspin to keep them back. Taking a look at the replay of the last point. Previously, you've seen me feel how good the ball is off the strings, predict my opponent will be in trouble and come in right away. Here's a little bit different because I am slicing to come in, and I know my opponent is going to get there. So what I do is, instead of a hard commit with a hard read, I'm going to do what's called a sneak volley. And that entails staying back just a little longer so my opponent doesn't think I'm going to come to net. And once my opponent locks his response to my shot in as a slice, which is not the best shot for a passing shot, then I can close. So you see here, just the wait, and then the hop step before I move forward and try to close on the volley. And he makes a good adjustment going at my feet. It's just I get a little lucky with that half volley. This time I initiate a little bit of poke myself with the offensive slice, but short. He comes to net, but not quite on his own terms. I'm able to run a nice counter-punching type of combo. Now for most of the match, I've been a little hesitant just to tear into the ball because of not overhitting into someone who deflects pace well, but if your opponent starts to stand closer, feel free. You should be trying to hit the ball hard and deep. And despite all the things I was trying to accomplish, my opponent raises level at the right time at the end of the set, continued to have a steady dose of consistent enough offense to close the set out. In addition, I didn't have, at least in the first set, really any answer to the serve, and I tried standing a little further back, but he was hitting a spot, so I had no choice but to actually just read the toss a little bit better so I can get prepped a little earlier. So there you have it. That's me trying to conjure whatever dive skill set I have to play into what I call someone who has a very strong poke skill set. And obviously my opponent didn't just roll over once I got a couple good plays into his style. He mixed things up himself. You can tell he's thinking out there, and which is why you see a number of the back and forth dynamics and changing of tactics. So hopefully you found this interesting and educational and understood how some of the poke, brawl, and dive concepts played out in a match scenario. So thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this style of video, let me know below in the comments. Also, I know some people might have some issues on their own, if need help evaluating their gameplay, and that's something I can possibly provide, so email me if that is the case. Thanks, and see you on the next one.